What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, and I will apologize in advance because this isn't the most timely of a video, but the way I originally planned it, I liked on paper, but now out in the open, like I said, it's not as timely. But this is another video in my series that I've been doing for a couple months now, titled Things I'd Like to See Happen in the 2023 NBA offseason. Now, I'll also say in each one of those videos, I've probably had a different title for the video, just so like I can put it in the title. It's just like each time it's changed. But the main thing is I talk about a team. It is talk about what I want to see that team do in the 2023 NBA offseason. Now, again, backtracking. The first video that I made in this series, I was talking about rebuilding teams, draft teams, which the draft lottery is next week, and I'll probably make a video talking about that once it happens. The second video I made was talking about playoff and play-in level teams. Some teams made the playoffs, so I will not be covering them again. Those teams were Minnesota, Brooklyn, and Atlanta. And like I said, not much would change out of those teams. And then the third edition of this was a special edition where I talked about one team. I talked about the Memphis Grizzlies because they're my favorite team. I was pretty much venting about this season and pretty much begging for the Grizzlies to get Mikal Bridges. Now we're talking about, as of this moment, the teams that are been eliminated so far in the 2023 NBA playoffs, which the main reason I'm saying this is like bad timing because the second round is taking place and literally every series is up for elimination. Like every series could end in the next game. So it's just kind of like I could have waited for those teams to get eliminated. But the way I originally had planned this is like I was going to have one video done a month until the NBA offseason takes place. Because the first video was in March. The second one was in April. This one would have been in May. We're in May now. And then the last one would have been in June. And then, like I said, teams that make the finals, definitely. But probably the conference finals, I wouldn't have talked about because they would have been in the finals or competing in the finals. They don't really need my help. But with who is left in these playoffs, you don't know what the hell is going to take place. So like I said, I'm going to talk about the four teams that I've not covered that have been eliminated in these playoffs. Sorry for the long intro, but we're getting right into it. And we're talking about probably the most shocking thing ever. And like I said, a lot of my references and points probably would have been more noteworthy 2 weeks ago, but I'm getting to it when I get to it. So, the most shocking thing ever. The Milwaukee Bucks, the team that's hat I am wearing for the video. They're the hat for the video. I was trying to think of something clever and it didn't work. Anyways, I was very shocked, but obviously we did not expect Giannis Antetokounmpo to get hurt and miss essentially 3 games for them. And to be fair, Miami, mainly Jimmy Butler, has been on a different level that they definitely did not expect to see. And it was very weird. It was 100% weird because not only did Miami became the first play-in team to win a playoff series, they lost a play-in game to the Atlanta Hawks, who also lost in the playoffs. It's a very weird situation, but Milwaukee now is in a very weird situation where they fired Mike Budenholzer, or they parted ways, whatever the better way to say that. It's just, Giannis has 2 years left there. He's got 3 years left on his deal. He's got a player option, $50 million. He's got 2 years left there. Chris Middleton has a player option this offseason, which is very weird because I've definitely been thinking this, like, players who are in contract years normally play out of their mind. That way they can get a bigger contract. Where this season, that wasn't really the case. The main names come on. Dylan Brooks, Chris Middleton, Fred VanVleet, all are in contract. And it's just a very weird situation where Chris Middleton at least was hurt and was a big part of them winning the championship. And we don't really know what he thinks. Most people think players are out to get the money, which makes sense. But maybe they want to stay loyal and stay with their franchise, which Chris Middleton, essentially has been with the Bucks his whole career, except for, I believe he was in Detroit literally for 1 year. Might be wrong with that, but he definitely hasn't been a Buck his whole career. But it's felt like it. But it's just like, when you look at Milwaukee, a lot of people besides Giannis are very experienced. The mean word to use is old. Brook Lopez had a crazy-ass year where he finished second in Defensive Player of the Year. Nobody really expected that. Drew Holiday became an all-star again. But it's just like, I can name all these good things that they did, but ultimately they failed as a 1 seed. And the year prior, coming off a championship, Chris Middleton wasn't there. They failed to get to the conference finals, which I will be honest with you, I did not intend to use the word fail, because I probably shouldn't be using that word, but it's just like, at some point, you got to realize what to do. So, Milwaukee, I would like to see them retool. I would like to see them get Damian Lillard, but I'm going to be realistic with you. I don't think there's a way they can get Damian Lillard that makes sense and can still build a competent team, because you could definitely give up everything besides Giannis and get Damian Lillard, and then you're going to be wondering, what the hell are you going to be left with? But I just don't think that's the most logical basketball thing. Which is like, I would like to see them retool. Because rebuild means they're getting younger. You're not doing that with Giannis. You have to make Giannis happy. I guess that's probably the thing I should have said. Because we saw a very similar situation with this happen with when they got eliminated in the bubble by Miami. And we're like, you got to make Giannis happy. And that's when Giannis was top tier. Everyone was vouching to go and try and sign him the year after. They're just like, they're going to go at, like, teams were moving, where I still think teams would still feel that way, but they think he's loyal to Milwaukee because he re-signed there. He obviously brought them a championship there. He done the one thing that every team and player should look out to do. So he's got that done. It's just like, you, as Milwaukee, I would think you don't want to be known as the team that lost a generational player. It's definitely happened, and that stigma and that thing, that stays around. Golden State hasn't had to worry about it. They've kept their generational player in Stephen Curry. Cleveland, they lost their generational player, and they stunk for the longest time until he came back. They got, I guess, fortunate would be the word to use that. And I definitely think, what would that team look like if LeBron never came back and they had Kyrie and, I guess, Andrew Wiggins, but, I don't think anybody else has ever thought of that. Besides the point, it's just, you got to make Giannis happy. That's the main point. I think the way to do that is to retool, because now, in back-to-back years, Chris Middleton wasn't there when you needed him most. Brook Lopez is very old, and he definitely had a crazy season, but it's just like, do you think he can do that again at his age? Drew Holiday, I think, is the main guy you should look to keep, just because he's not the oldest, and he was an all-star, and he was probably the thing that put them over the hump to get a championship. I would also say they should get a PJ Tucker replacement, because they've still struggled to not have, like, they tried with Jay Crowder. I never thought the Jay Crowder move was going to work, because you can't just not play all season and then get thrown into the mix and you be very good. And you can see in the playoffs, he didn't even freaking play. Also, Milwaukee probably didn't have a chance to win because they signed Myers Leonard, but that's besides the point. But it's just, Milwaukee, I'd like to see them retool. I think they will most likely run this team back one last time. They would, I especially would think that if Chris Middleton accepts his player option, but I don't know what the hell they're going to do there. But it's just, the main thing you got to do is to make Giannis happy. Because Giannis isn't happy. It's not, I will say this, it's not entirely Milwaukee's fault, but they definitely don't want to poke the bear. I'm just throwing a lot of puns. But what's the best way to put it? They don't want to make the situation worse, I guess is the best way to put it. So, that is it for me talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, into the next of the 4 teams. The Sacramento Kings. 3rd seed, made the playoffs for the first time in a long time. I think they were happy with their season. They went toe-to-toe with the defending champions and it took a magical Stephen Curry performance in Game 7 to get eliminated. It makes the most sense. When I was watching that series, I just kept saying they don't have defense. They need defense. They 100% need defense. Now, I know Harrison Barnes is kind of the easiest person to like say, yeah, he's the problem. But just like Sabonis isn't a lockdown defender. I don't think he's ever going to be a lockdown defender. He's not going to be a rim protector. I would say they should get a rim protector, but then I would question that fit with Sabonis. But it's just the thing. I spent an entire video talking about it for the Grizzlies. It's just like, if you can get a defensive guy at that small forward, I would, as much as I'd like to see him as a Grizzly, I think OG fits with Sacramento. And they gave up one first-round pick to get Kevin Huerter, who played all the playoffs is a different story, but just like in the regular season, it is very good for them. It's just like Sacramento needs defense. I said a rim protector, but it's just like they need a guy that defensively can do something for them. And I would say be an anchor, but just, I guess, be the anchor and like he's the main guy defensively, which OG Anunoby, who just made an all-defensive team, I think could do that. And then it gets the other 4 guys around him involved, and it's not just a one-man show defensively, just because I feel that would be very difficult to obtain. But it's just like, I think, because obviously offensively in the playoffs, they're very good for their games that they won, which they won 3. And I'm trying to think, they're in Game 4, they were very close to winning. Obviously, they lost by 1 point. And it's just like, if a little bit of defense was there, could it help? So, Sacramento, I was watching that series. I'm like, they need something defensively. So, anything defensively that you can get at your Sacramento, please do so. And like I said, I guess, I'm not going to say Harrison Barnes the scapegoat, because obviously he helped them get to the playoffs. He was also the most experienced. Was he the oldest guy on the team? He was definitely the most experienced because he has a championship ring. But they was just like, I'm pretty sure they showed the stats in Game 7s that he's been in, and it wasn't the best. But you're not trading Fox, you're not trading Sabonis. I think it'd be crazy to trade Keegan Murray because he had a great rookie season, and I guess you could say you can make an argument like that he changed the team because it was his first year there, and it was the first year that they made the playoffs. But that could be a very big stretch. And then Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, like I said, Malik Monk was fantastic offensively, and Kevin Huerter in the playoffs wasn't the best, but regular season he was. So that's the 4 positions I'm talking about. There's the one that's the defining one. So for Sacramento, I would just like to see them do something defensively. Next, Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm very upset. I am very upset because I really wanted to see the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Cleveland Cavaliers because I thought they matched up very well. And I'm not going to say evenly because when you're going against Giannis, it's going to take a lot. But it's just like I was very intrigued to see how Mobley and Allen were going to guard Giannis. But not only did Milwaukee get eliminated, or I guess I probably should have said that the other way around. Not only did Milwaukee get eliminated, Cleveland got eliminated as well in 5 games. And I did not have fun watching the Cavs-Knicks series. And the main thing that I remember is Game 3, and they could not hit a shot. They just couldn't. And then as the series was progressing, they couldn't get a rebound either. And when I'm talking about the Knicks, this is going to sound like I'm bashing Josh Hart, but I'm not. It's just like, I don't know how so many teams did not try to trade for him at the deadline because he just does the little things and he just gives his heart, pun freaking intended, and Cleveland could never recover. But the thing I'm going to say kind of contradicts everything a little bit. It's just like patience. It's the first time Cleveland made the playoffs since the 90s, I believe is the actual fact, without LeBron James. And it's the first time, so LeBron left in 2008. So 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, 21-22. They were very close. 4 years that they hadn't made the playoffs, and they were there. And it's a lot of these guys' first times in the playoffs. Darius Garland, Oscar Okoro, Evan Mobley have never been in the playoffs. Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, in their times they've been in the playoffs, which are twice, they won 1 freaking games in those series. Donovan Mitchell, I guess, is kind of the, and Ricky Rubio obviously played minutes. Cedi Osman definitely had to have been on one of those LeBron teams that played, but it's just like, when you were talking about those playoff runs, you definitely wasn't talking about Cedi Osman. And also, I said in the Shooting Breeze video, where I was talking about Knicks, Cavs, why the hell is Cedi Osman guarding Jalen Brunson? I don't know. I'm not a coach. That's the exact thing I also said as well. But it's just like, Donovan Mitchell, I think, was, I know he's called Spider-Man. He was supposed to be the superhero, and he wasn't. It was way, way too much. Where New York were well-rounded, and to be fair, you could definitely make the argument that New York wasn't ready or kind of has the same experience level because they had been in the playoffs once. They had won 1 game in their series. And I'm mainly talking about Randall and Barrett. Josh Hart never been in the playoffs. But it's just like, we saw Jalen Brunson in the playoffs last year against Donovan Mitchell, no less. And he played, I don't know if the Saints played or paid. I think it's paid. Paid dividends. And he obviously got paid in part to his playoff performance last year. So, I know it's a whole argument because now looking at New York is definitely weird. And even Cleveland, Miami would have been a great matchup. And it's just like, it's wishing for things that you can't change now. So I think the main thing I would like to see with Cleveland is patience. Your main guys got their feet wet and got in the playoffs. Garland and Mobley. Mitchell, over time, the main guys there will hopefully be able to work out and it becomes something. Because like I said, they're very young. Besides, Mitchell's just the weird part of the team. Because Mitchell is obviously older than all the guys. He's making the most money out of all the guys. He's most likely the guy to leave out of all those guys, which I'm not talking about that now until a couple more seasons. But it's just, I would say patience. The one reason I wouldn't say that is because Donovan Mitchell might not want to be patient. But you got to get your feet wet first. So the main thing I'm saying for Cleveland is patience, which if the same thing happens next year, that's when you panic. That's when you start wanting to do something different, which, to be fair, I don't know what that different would be. Also, it wouldn't hurt / it would help if you got some veterans and great rotational players bench players because they didn't have the best in this series. Last but not least, the Los Angeles Clippers. They really broke my heart because I really wanted to see this team perform. Obviously, Paul George was hurt way in advance. Kawhi Leonard then was hurt. And I hate how the Clippers, twice now, when Kawhi Leonard was seriously hurt, they kept playing with like, oh, he can come back, and then they diagnosed him with a very serious injury. So, a lot of people are just wanting to see the Clippers break up, ready to move on just because they're tired of seeing Kawhi and Paul George hurt. But this is going to sound like an a-hole thing to say, but it's just like, it's the players that are getting hurt. They don't want to get hurt, obviously, but it's just like, if they're in a different situation and they're traded to a different team, what's stopping them from getting hurt there, hypothetically? And we all know and all think that the Clippers are cursed in some way just because they've had a very unfortunate tenure in their careers, but it sucks. But the main thing I was trying to get at there is a lot of people are like, they need to trade them, but it's just like, that doesn't really change what is hurting them. So, I imagine they're going to run this back at least one more time. The main reason I think that is, we don't know, but I would think Kawhi and Paul George want to be there. They made it a point to play for their hometown, home state team. I don't know the functions and locations in California, but Los Angeles is the main part of California, obviously, and they wanted to play there. And the Clippers, it definitely hurts that I said they had the best 10-man rotation at the trade deadline. But I also did not expect their top 2 guys to go out, and then they had to worry about the rest of them. But it's just, everybody is under contract except for Mason Plumlee and Russell Westbrook, which obviously the main thing, they want to bring Russ back. They have said they want to bring Russ back. I don't know if Russ has said he wants to come back, but I imagine he would, just because the same thing that I just said with Kawhi and Paul George. They would want to play for his hometown team, and in a way better situation than the Lakers, because, you know, they treated him like shit, and I'll just say it because I'm a Russ fan, and that's how I felt it happened. Anyways, they got tradable contracts of guys, like, I like Robert Covington. I would probably play Robert Covington over Marcus Morris. I almost got Marcus Morris, but if you could trade Marcus Morris, I probably would. The main, like Mason Plumlee, who they gave up Reggie Jackson and second-round picks for, is not the biggest loss if you don't bring back Mason Plumlee. And I don't know what the hell Mason Plumlee's market is, but if you can bring him back, you do. It's just like, at that point, it's going to be a money situation with the Clippers. But I'm saying, and what I imagine, bring Russ back at any cost. The most, I'm not going to say that any cost. I was good. Let me think about it. Bring Russ back. Try your best to bring Russ back. If it's a money thing, then it's understandable. But it's just like, if there should be no reason that they don't bring Russ back, because I'm just imagining that he's going to be back. If you could trade Marcus Morris, I would do so. But long story short, I imagine they're running this team back one last time at least, because they said it best. They have not lost a series since with Ty Lue, with Kawhi and Paul George. They have not lost, because obviously Kawhi went out, and then this time around, the second time around actually, last year, Kawhi and Paul George were both out, and then this time around, sadly, Kawhi and Paul George were out. So, it's just, I don't know what you could get for Kawhi and Paul George right now. You could probably get a lot. And I believe they're both on expiring contracts. They might have player options. I never really know what with player options, if the players want to accept it or not. It's just situational. But long story short, I think the Clippers are going to run it back. I think they should run it back one last time just to see what you can do. And if it doesn't work, you try to get Giannis. That was obviously a joke, but we shall see. So, like I said, sorry for this kind of being a little bit late, but when I planned these way a long time ago, I was like, it kind of works out, but who really knows? Because I was wanting to do one a month, because in June, I'm not going to have that much. So, depending on how it goes, with these teams that get eliminated in the second round, I might wait until June to talk about those teams, or I might feel feisty and make the video a lot earlier. Who knows then? But the NBA season is slowly coming to a close, meaning that these videos are going to become relevant, because then we'd be in the off season. I have not had that much fun watching these plays. I know a lot of people are saying that they have, but it's just like, I'm a very hater. I'm not going to say I'm a hater. I'm not a negative person. In my videos, I'm a very positive person. But it's just, I will admit, there are some teams that I don't want to see win at the moment, and I'm not going to say which teams those are, because then if they win, I'm going to look like an a-hole, but it is what it is. So that is it for this 4th edition of things I like to see happen in the 2023 NBA offseason. We still got some teams left to cover, and we'll cover those teams when the time is necessary. So thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, and take care.